Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. And it's hour what? What are we at now? It's hour 48 or so on the Giants firing Brian Daboll, head coach watch, the interim for Mike Kafka, who's getting his opportunity and a decent opportunity at that, to potentially showcase himself for other NFL teams or for the New York football Giants, potentially retain. I'm now seeing, Nick, and we'll start with this. There's a possibility that Mike Kafka could return as offensive coordinator because they want to keep him for Jaxson Dart and his development. That's something I saw Dan Duggan float this morning. I don't know how viable that is and if he would want to do that, but it might not. And as Duggan said, Nick, and let's start here, it might not be that crazy when you consider, one, according to Duggan, Kafka has moved his family here and his family is living their lives here. And I'm sure his kids are in schools and he's built his life here. And two, he probably really enjoys working with Jaxson Dart and this young quarterback. And this may be one of the best opportunities he has if he doesn't get a head coaching job, whether that be with the Giants or another team next season. So are you excited for, are you open to the idea of Mike Kafka as either the next Giants head coach or retaining him to keep him with Jaxson Dart?
I'm open to both ideas. And I want to say the audio here, it's not going to be like the previous episode where that was a file corrupted, but I am at my parents' house at the moment on my laptop. So it's just not as crisp as a professional microphone. But regardless of that, I am open to both of those scenarios with Mike Kafka. And it would make sense if he does a respectable job. The Giants finish, they win a couple games here or there, and the team seems to, rally around him to some degree. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to be the head coach, right? Unless he absolutely knocks it out of the park. He could just be the offensive coordinator for a coach that is receptive to having him be the offensive coordinator. And that's where I think it's really important, where the conversation could go. It's like, is that coach actually receptive to him, or is this an offensive coordinator that's being foisted upon a coach? Which I'm not as open to that. I do want to whoever this new coach is going to be, I want it to be a cohesive, well-run thing and not something that you kind of go in half-hearted and then something goes wrong and then there's, animosity and antipathy built among the coach. We've seen this happen before with the New York Giants when it comes to just the coaches not being on the same page a lot recently with the past two coaches, with Brian Daboll and with Joe Judge. I don't want that for the future coach, but if that future coach is accepting to a possible offensive coordinator being Mike Kafka and Carmen Bricillo being on staff and a coaching staff that has worked here in New York with the positional coaches, then I'd be much more open to that. I just want everybody to be on the same page. And that's already, I feel like the Giants may be a half step behind with that because the Giants are looking like they're going to retain Joe Schoen and they're going to bring in another head coach. And we've seen that happen around the NFL and it doesn't usually work out excellently.
That's a very good point by you as far as the cohesiveness goes, because we've seen the opposite, as you said, flip side of that. And I will say this, one of the added benefits, the potential idea of retaining somebody like Mike Kafka is you have a much better chance of retaining Carmen Bricillo, the Giants offensive line coach, who is in a lot of ways, we believe at least, though we don't know for sure, responsible for this uptick in offensive line play that we've gotten from the Giants that we haven't got. Like we cannot take for granted how the Giants offensive line is pass protected this year. We just cannot do it because I know it's easy to do because we've now had it for a 10-game sample size a 10-game sample size this season, essentially all games except for maybe one. But we can't forget, just because it's now 10 games ago, we can't forget how bad it was for a decade before that. We had games where and I was talking to my dad about this on Sunday, Nick, when we watched last week's game. We had games where the quarterback would snap the ball and the play was essentially shot from that point on. There was so much pressure in the backfield. And that leads to, you can't do anything on offense. So I just want to make sure that that's a priority as well for us.
100%. I think it's interesting though, and I don't want us to fall into some sort of trap as Giant fans, people who cover the Giants. It's easy to say, yeah, Carmen Bricillo is doing an excellent job. In reality, we don't really know.
Right.
The product is what we're judging it by, that final product, and the final product is so much better than anything we've seen. And I want to give Carmen Bricillo those flowers, but I also want to say, those previous offensive line coaches, they didn't have Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle.
Right.
They didn't have Jon Runyan. Jon Runyan is no world beater, right? I feel like we're very fair to Jon Runyan's skill set on this podcast, but he is a lot better than the guards the Giants had prior to Jon Runyan's arrival here. And that's very similar with GVR. So the personnel as well is much more competent than any of the personnel we've seen, I think, collectively on the offensive line under Carmen Bricillo than we saw under Rob Sale.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, Dave DeGuglielmo and Hal Hunter.
Hal Hunter, it's you don't even want to talk about it. He's not in the NFL anymore for a reason. But It's a great point by you, and it's one I actually want to unpack a little bit further because it's interesting. I will say this on that front. I think the point is stronger on the outside with the tackle play. So, you have Andrew Thomas, you have Jermaine Illuminor, who's playing better than some of the Bobby Harts of the years and guys we've had. On the interior, though, I do think that this group and this unit, and this extends to the tackles as well, the whole offensive line is playing with a lot better communication up front than they ever have, regardless of who's been there, Runyon or whatever we want to give credit for. Because we've had similar comps at center, right? Like Feliciano and Nick Gates, where I don't think our guys are that much better, in my personal opinion, JMS and Schlotman than them. And even at the guard positions, we've had some guys who are, relatively speaking, we've had Zeitler, we've had some decent guys in there. But just the communication standpoint, dealing with Twist and Sons up front, that's the area where it's like we're playing so much more cohesively in pass protection. So talent, yes, like the one-on-one wins at the tackle position, I can see it with Illuminor. We're getting way more one-on-one wins for Illuminor than we've had for previous tackles. But outside of that, the communication, the stunts, the twist, the games, the way we're handling stuff up front, that is taking a massive jump. And that I feel like has to belong to Carmen Bricillo.
I would imagine, right? Yeah, I would absolutely imagine. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying we don't really know, and I think it's it'd be prudent of us to consider everything, right? Because Jermaine Illuminor is by far and away the best right tackle the New York Giants have had in what, Kareem McKenzie? We can go back far, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
The Bobby Harts, the Mike Remmers, Evan Neal was an absolute abject disaster.
Wild how long it's been since we've had decent right tackle play.
And when you have a really bad right tackle, you're allocating so many eyes over there. The tight end always has to be on that side to help chip, or the running back. You have to slide the protection that way. And that really puts a burden on the left tackle who's going to be on an island a lot of the times. And the Giants didn't really even have a stable left tackle at that time prior to Andrew Thomas getting here. So that's really why I wanted to highlight it. But I mean, of course, I want Carmen Bricillo back because everything we've seen from his unit has been positive, and I don't want to change that. I want to retain the personnel too, but I also don't want to change the offensive line coach. The only offensive line coach we've had that has at least put a product out there that is respectable, and dare I say, I don't want to say well above average, I think, in pass protection. I think we could say that at least. Run blocking, they can come along. I think that is a personnel issue as well, though.
And Mike Kafka, and that's a good point too. That's something that well, actually, let's get into that. There's a lot I want to talk about on this show, and it's going in a bunch of different directions, but that kind of levies me into my next point.
I love that, though. That's why
so we're going to table some of the other stuff. Yeah, this is a big time for the Giants. We'll table what I want. We'll get into Kafka's first big decision, which is our first two big decisions. One, to name Jameis Winston the starter if Jaxson Dart can't start this weekend, which all signs point to that being the case, over Russell Wilson, and then also that he feels, and I like that he said for now. He said, for now, there will be no other coaching changes. I like that he didn't just say, that's it. This is our situation for the rest of the season. But we'll get into that in a second. But I want to circle it back to the point you made about the offensive line and about the talent on the interior offensive line as it relates to the Giants roster building moving forward, Nick, because I did get in a conversation today with Bobby Skinner. And the conversation was based off of this chart that I posted on Twitter, I retweeted about, which is the Giants are top 10 this season in explosive plays, and the most big plays through week 10, the Giants are number 10. So you think, how is that possible when the Giants have injuries to their two best and basically only playmakers on offense in Neighbors and Scadaboo, no wide receiver depth behind Neighbors, a bottom 10 run blocking unit at best? That's being pretty generous, I think, but I'll put him in that bottom 10 range instead of bottom 5, right? We don't really have the talent to block in the run game. And then, on addition to those three things, a schedule that was deemed the toughest in the NFL and has pretty much played out that way. To me, Nick, it goes to show that individual quarterback play and pass protection will always, always, always be more important and trump skill players. It's just obvious. Like if we flip the script and Jaxson Dart had Neighbors and these receivers, but our O-line wasn't protecting at all, I doubt Jaxson Dart would be this good. I think Jaxson Dart would be struggling mightily with good skill players and bad offensive line play. And I don't even think it. I know it. There's no way to prove it, but I know it. And it just got into a conversation I had that I want to get your opinion on with Bobby Skinner, who said, yep, I hope this offensive line doesn't make the team feel like it's good enough, but instead propels them to keep investing in it more and more now that they have Jaxson Dart. And I said, yes, this will be a big test for Joe Schoen. In the past, to me, Nick, it's felt like he's just gone to the next need, like he's filling out some Scantron tests. That's what I said. It really does feel like that. But me, I'm 100% bored with what Bobby's suggesting, which is just keep improving the O-line, make the pass pro even better, add people movers on the interior, and we'll get the explosives and successful plays because that's all we need. He's already top 10 in explosive, successful plays, and he has neighbors next year, which he didn't have this year. So I think it's a pretty obvious formula for me. I'm not so sure it's obvious to Shane. I feel like Shane in the past, Nick, and I want to get your take on this, has been like, all right, we filled need X, we filled need Y. Now we're past need X and Y. We need to go to need C, or, D, Z, whatever it would be.
Yeah, especially and to even take this conversation further, look at the defensive side of the football. There's been a lot of investments in the defensive side of the football, but they need linebackers and they need defensive linemen like pretty desperately. And I can see Shane hyper targeting that because as we've talked about through this Daboll Shane era, and now just the Shane era, Shane, when there is a problem with the previous team, he tends to really hyper focus on it in the next offseason. I don't see an issue with that unless you're doing it at the expense of other issues on your roster or neglecting to take very high quality football players because you need to fill these needs. Right. And I hope the Giants look within their division. And I hate to use these two teams as an example, but when it comes to the offensive line, to add to the conversation Bobby and you had, the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles have replenished their offensive lines. They have very stable offensive lines, and that is the bedrock and the foundation of their offense. The Giants need to replicate that. This is a copycat league, and the New York Giants need to do a good job ensuring that they are taken care of and that they don't fall down the doldrums of what happened over the last decade of just having absolute disasters along the offensive line. And Shane attempted to do that with Evan Neal and Josh Azudu, but those were misses too, right? And then he had to spend money in free agency, and that really just that hamstrung the New York Giants from building and rebuilding other parts of their roster that were lacking. So you need to hit on these draft picks, and also you need the coaching staff to develop those draft picks. But to the point, man, I'm firmly of the belief that the Giants must keep adding to this offensive line. Like having this play, and the Giants are 2-8 right now. It's a depressing season. It sucks, but I look forward to watching the all-22 offensive film, not just for Jaxson Dart. Obviously, he's the main reason, but also because the offensive line allows Jaxson Dart to be Jaxson Dart. Because if the offensive line was the offensive line in previous seasons, Jaxson Dart would struggle. I think he would still make plays. I still think it would be different than the offenses that we've seen in previous iterations for the New York Giants. But I still believe that having Jermaine Olumono and Andrew Thomas and a cohesive unit up front is allowing Jaxson Dart to flourish around the minds of football watchers all across the nation and not just here in New York.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And I think a big factor has been the pass protection. I mean, the third factor that we didn't mention, though, that really does belong in here, and we'll circle back to still more I want to say on that first front, is it's not just pass protection. It's not just Jaxson Dart. Those are 1 and 2. It's like Kafka, Brian Daboll, dude. Like people don't want to admit it. People want to look past it, but these guys have done a good job figuring out scheme that works for Jaxson Dart, given the talent they have around him, the heavy 12 personnel, the concepts that he ran at Ole Miss, all the different things they've done to get him comfortable in this offense. Like even if you just take out, let's just say, Nick, we don't even go X's and O's, right? We don't even go film, though we've broken it down on our page. You can go back and look, and we've put up crazy, plenty of examples of those coaches designing stuff for this Giants offense that has worked. But if you even take all that out, just the comfortability that Jaxson Dart is operating under this scheme right now, that's a credit to the coaching staff. There's no way around it. Look, I wanted Daboll gone. You wanted Daboll gone. We all wanted Daboll gone. That was because of his job as a head coach. As far as what he's done as an offensive schemer and coordinator and getting Jaxson Dart comfortable. And the same goes for Kafka, by the way. They're a mixed deal in that regard for me. That's a plus, and that always has been a plus for me, at least. I understand some people disagree on that from last season when Daboll struggled to generate offense and Kafka struggled to generate offense. We're not going to get back into that. Obviously, with Drew Lock and DeVito, at the very least, we can admit that those guys aren't professional quarterbacks. And one more note on the point you made, the third team I wanted to bring into that example was just Indianapolis, right? Like that's a perfect example of a team led by their offensive line, one of, if not the best in the NFL, and allows them to do everything they want schematically. Their run action, their whole game, their whole offense is based on what they do in the run game. As I watched this week to week, Nick, I heard a stat yesterday from Jacob Gibbs about Alec Pierce. So we were talking about him on our fantasy show, and it was so interesting. It's like no one's ever had an average depth of target. Pierce has like a 19 point something average depth of target. No one's had an average depth of target and then an actual target per route run rate at Alec Pierce. He's like, and I'm like, yeah, it's because the entire defense has to just allocate everything to what they're doing in the run game. And Pierce just has these constant one-on-ones on the field side with no safety help over the top.
And he's like low key.
He's also good. Yeah.
He's low key one of the better, like, jump ball guys. Right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have that like Nuke Hopkins type of thing going on necessarily, but
41.5 inch vertical.
Yeah, exactly. And he really, Like, I don't want to make it like he's like this strong hands, but it's the explosiveness and it's his ability to use his body to his
Yeah,
advantage
right.
too. And another thing about that offense is having Daniel Jones's athletic ability. That's just another gap you have to
Right.
roll because you have to contain him. You have to be
Yep.
disciplined on that backside because he will make you pay whenever they go. So that offense is humming right now, and the offensive line is the bedrock of the offensive attack.
Yeah, if their offensive line started to get major injuries, you'd see that offense fall apart. And that goes for every NFL team. Yet at wide receiver, and it's the flip side of it, the Giants wide receiver room has gotten an insane amount of injury. Well, they didn't really have much of a game, but they got neighbors injured. And they haven't fallen apart. They're still 10th in explosive plays. There's a reason for that. And you put out a stat as well, by the way, Nick. I think something really interesting. I'm trying to get it up now. But
so it's I could say Jaxson Dart is the of all the quarterbacks that have played 25% of their dropbacks for their respective teams, Jaxson Dart ranks third in big time throw rate.
And that's without receivers.
Yeah, the only ones above him are Matt Stafford with 6.9, and then Sam Darnold, who has a 9% big time throw rate, which is just Sam Darnold. If anybody wants to just watch fun offense and also a possible coaching candidate in Clint Kubiak, who's the offensive coordinator up there for the New York Giants, watch Sam Darnold, man. He is balling out of his mind right now.
Darnold is a completion percentage of 72% on 20-plus yard throws. The next highest is like Drake May at like 58%. And then every single other quarterback is below 50% on 20-plus yard throws.
I would like to see the splits on how many of those throws are to Jackson Smith and Jigba because
he's no Horton. He's hit Horton a bunch too. I love.
Yeah. But Jackson Smith,
Giants should have just drafted Torrey Horton. We would be so good with him right now.
My point for bringing that up is just Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, we got to start talking about giving him the respect that he deserves. Yeah. Mention him in the names with Jamar Chase,
Jefferson Chase. Yep, he's earned that.
He's amazing, dude.
His yards per route run is over 5 yards per route run. No one's ever even topped 4 in their career. Like early Beckham 2014 was like the best you've ever seen for yards per route run, and he was still well below 5 yards per route run that Jaxson Smith and Jigba has been able to rack up this year.
I love the conversation, man. The college conversation between who is wide receiver between Ohio State and LSU.
It's close.
Heavy hitters. Man.
I might take Ohio State, honestly. I'm not a Brian Thomas guy at all, really. I'm happy. Like, it is what it is on him. I just
Malik Chase and Justin are just.
It's pretty hard to beat, right? But then and Harrison, we'll never really know, I think, until they get a quarterback upgrade.
It's got like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith, and like Ohio State's deeper.
Buka.
Exactly.
They just are deeper. You're right. I think that and McLaurin, it's deeper with Ohio State. Maybe the top end talent is better with LSU. I know Brian Hartline, best wide receiver coach in the nation. Top line and talent's probably better at LSU. But back to the Giants and your point, like Jaxson Dart is third highest in big time throw percentage. That's like the whole point of the debate, right? As to why the Giants should continue to invest in the offensive line and not just fall to the pressure of we need to fill this wide receiver need, because our wide receivers are done. Like, we don't have wide receivers on this team, and he's still doing that. If we didn't have offensive linemen, dude, I know this for a fact. If I was watching, I watch these teams week after week, the Raiders O-line, the Panthers O-line in pass protection. These are dead in the water passing games. It doesn't matter who's at receiver when you can't pass protect. It does not matter. So it just has to be reinforced. I hope Joe Schoen understands this. I hope he doesn't do his need to need start, go back to his like need thing.
But even with that said, to play devil's advocate here, like, I wouldn't be upset if the Giants took one of the stud receivers either, depending on where they pick and who's available and all that.
He's the best player, yeah.
Exactly. Like, if they could have added like an Ibuka to this team, say if he was in this next draft, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, you should have went offensive line, because you're adding somebody who is going to provide immediate value. I do think the Giants I think it behooves this offense to find a quality number 2 to where if Neighbors were to go down, he is a good number 1. The Giants don't have that right now. They're not even close.
Agreed on that. They do need a good number 2, and I don't really personally want to invest long-term in Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm ready to move on personally. I respect his game. I think his game's good. It's just not what I want. I don't want somebody who has to be schemed around. I don't want somebody who I can't line up on the boundary.
I am curious to see what his future is, right? Because Shane is more than likely be retained. I'm sure he wants to keep Wan'Dale Robinson, but is the new offense going to, like, Daboll wanted a Wan'Dale Robinson type of guy. And I also think, what is his market? And Daboll also might probably take an OC job somewhere. Would he want to bring a Wan'Dale?
Right. Well, his market's going to be heavy, Nick, because I'm already hearing $20 million plus for Alec Pierce. That's the situation. You cannot find wide receivers in free agency. If you want a wide receiver in free agency, you have to pay for one. I think the Giants' best.
Wan'Dale's going to cost that much, do you?
No, because he's a slot only, but he is going to have his agent leaning on the fact that he's number 1 in slot yards. He's number 1 in slot receptions and all this crap. And it's fine. Like, Wan'Dale's a good player. my vision for the Jaxson Dart offense, honestly, my vision in the NFL, as we see some of the best offenses doing it right now, McVay, is actually more 12 personnel based. I want to have a good second tight end, and I want Theo to develop, and I want to run an offense with 2 receivers. And you're going to obviously play 11 personnel. It's the NFL. But I can fill my slot guy. I'm not worried about finding guys who can play in the slot. Like, God forbid, like, I'm not going to name all the guys, but there are players we can find to play in the slot, and you can find them in rounds 3, 4, 5. But as far as that second receiver role goes, which is what my focus would be, Nick, I need it to not be a Wan'Dale Robinson. I need a real receiver, a boundary guy at second receiver.
I don't disagree. And where I find this to be very interesting is I do want to retain the 12 personnel. I'm glad Theo's under contract for as long as he is because of his dominance as a blocker. And if he can grow as a receiver, that's just a cherry on top of a good draft pick on day 3. I would like to retain Daniel Bellinger. So I want that 12 person because Bellinger shouldn't cost too much. And Bellinger there's a lot of utility to having him on this roster because he can receive and he's also a solid blocker.
Right.
I want a strong 11 personnel package. So say if Cam Scadaboo comes back, I think the Giants can have like a ground and pound rushing attack, especially if they add like a grinder in the interior parts of their offensive line to replace GVR. You can run the football physically out of 11 personnel with Theo Johnson and Cam Scadaboo. So that I'm hoping the Giants do that.
That's a good point. It's a good. We want them to be multiple. We definitely do.
Yeah.
And as far as the debate as we turn the page, and we'll get to that debate months from now. It's always early for us. I won't be, ruling out the idea of a wide receiver with our first round pick by any means. If he's the best, I'm always blue chip over everything. If there's a player who I think, like when the Neighbors pick came, there was no one else I was really even considering at that time. Once Joe Alt was off the board, I didn't feel like anyone else matched Neighbors' blue chip upside. Odunze I really like, so he was in the mix for me as well. But I did have Neighbors over Odunze. But if we get to that point again in this class and it's wide receiver again, I'm all for it. Like, we're probably not taking a guard in round 1. I know that. We're probably not taking a center in round 1. I know that. I'm not stupid. And there will be linebackers that I'm considering though. Like if Reese is on the board, like I know people are like, oh, you could play him anywhere on your defense. You bring a good defensive mind in there. Him and Carter and Tibbet, like I just feel like that's interesting too. Like I think a lot of people are looking at our season, Nick, and being like, this is a whole separate point, or looking at our season though and being like, wow, since the Saints game, the Giants have these amazing pass rushers have a combined half a sack and 2 quarterback hits. How bad are these players? Did we overrate these players? And I think that mindset feels somewhat right now, but will feel so wrong if you get the right defensive coordinator in here. I think a lot of this has to do with the shit system that we're running. I really do.
I mean, we've talked a lot about it, Dan. I mean, again, people be like, well, he's gapped out. People got to execute. And it's like, yes, I understand that. But this guy is not doing anything outside of the box. He's just running his system. Like, that does limit what you can do, obviously. And when
it makes you predictable, as you've said.
Yeah, when you're giving the answers to the test to the quarterback, and so that quarterback doesn't have to be like, oh, well, I'm dropping out. Oh, wow, I didn't see this before. And as he's doing that, Brian Burns is smacking him, right? It's just putting too much of a burden on the players.
Yeah, right. And that remains to be seen. It's speculation on both of our parts. It's fine. We don't know for sure, but I just know in my mind, like these guys who fans are like, I don't know if our pass rush is as good. Did we overrate them? Just wait till we get a system in here that puts them in front in positions where they are going to look as awesome as we know that, as Nick and I know they can look. So another story for another day. Oh, sorry, you have anything else on that?
No, nothing on that, but there's 2 other massive storylines we need to talk about. Obviously, the Jameis Winston, and then I thought it was going to be Mike Groh who was going to get the OC, but it was Tim Kelly, the tight ends coach. So which direction would you like to go in?
Well, let's start with James, because the Tim Kelly thing, like he's been a coordinator before. He was most recently with Tennessee, but I don't think he's calling plays. So I don't, it's one of those coordinator positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually pulled up. We don't have to spend too much time on Tim Kelly though, but he was the offensive coordinator under Bill O'Brien for the Houston Texans from 2019 to 2021. And then remember
was he calling plays though, or was it O'Brien calling plays? I don't remember.
I'm not 100% certain on that. I got to imagine it was O'Brien calling.
I think so too. Yeah.
But still, he has experience doing that in the offense. This was when it was before Deshaun Watson had all of his allegations against him. They finished 12th in points in 2019. And then I think it was like this, it was around the same in 2020. And then Bill O'Brien got fired. And 2021, remember the Texans went through like David Culley, and then I think it was Lovie Smith for a year.
Yeah.
That David Culley year, all the allegations came out against Deshaun Watson, and they were forced to start Davis Mills, and they finished like with 16.5 points per game, which was terrible. And I'm pretty sure he was the play caller for that year because I don't think David Culley was, which is a little concerning, but it was a mess. And they had a rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, starting, so I don't want to hold that against him. But there were two teams that finished underneath him. It was the Jacksonville Jags with good old Urban Meyer and the New York Giants at 15 points per game.
Wow.
We've been so bad for so long, dude. It's just 15.2 points. You know how bad that is?
That has to be, yeah. Just watching that as fans is insane. At least we're past that. Like, this has been a shitty year. We're 2-8. Like, that sucks, and it sucks. And we've lost these dumb games that we should win. But at least we're past the point of, like, we go into a Sunday, like, are we even going to get 2 touchdowns? It's probably going to be another 10 points. We're going to keep punting. It's going to be miserable football to watch. At least we score points with Jaxson Dart, and he's, 10th in explosive plays, 3rd in big time throw percent. The Giants are 10th in explosive plays because we can't run the ball. We're 3rd in big time throw percentage. Like, this is a fun, explosive offense with Jaxson Dart. He is a fun quarterback who makes big throws, big time plays, out of structure, in structure, all game, every time we doubt it, every time we're like, well, eventually it's going to fall back. Like, there's going to have to be a bad game. It just doesn't seem to come. So, yeah.
It's everything we wanted from the quarterback, really, what we're seeing. And he's only
we just need the team to catch up to the quarterback. That's the problem for us that we never thought we'd have. We thought we'd need the quarterback to catch up to the team, though we knew we never really had the team. We needed both, but the quarterback's here. As far as the first one goes, the Jameis Winston decision, we're obviously big fans. We made that clear on the last episode. I think part of this, Nick, is optics, in my mind at least, not from Kafka, but maybe from top-down ownership with Mara, because I think he realizes from just being at the stadium over the last 2 months, Nick, that if they put Russell Wilson on that field, fans are going to boo. They booed Russell Wilson the last time he stepped on the field, and it's going to be bad. Like, they don't want to have them getting the home offense getting booed.
I mean, but all the boos are warranted though, right? Like, because I don't think this.
I feel bad. I feel bad.
No, I know. What I mean for this, I completely agree. And I'm not dehumanizing him, but what I mean is his play has been boo worthy, right? Like, he has not played well, and I don't think ownership made this move because of optics. I think they made this move because it's the right move, and I also think it was Mike Kafka's decision. I think he came out and said that today, but still, like, it's the move. Like, how do you not make this move? Like, this is what 3 or 4 appearances by Russell Wilson that we're just like, what are we doing here right now when Jameis is there? And I haven't seen any media member of the New York Giants say, no, Russell. Like, everybody's like, guys, come on, we got to play. If they didn't put Jameis in there, that would have been the worst way to start the Mike Kafka era.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I agree with you 100% wholeheartedly on everything you said. I think part of it is, though, also the optics for the Giants and Mara. Like, I don't think
the optics are what they are. You know, it was going to look because that's the way, like, how else can you interpret it at that point?
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
the fans would have every justification to boo Russ, but it would be literally like the first series, which I don't think Mara wants to see out there, and I respect that as well. And we don't want to see it either. We want to have fun with Jameis, and Jameis has no weapons around him or anything like that, but he still may be fun. He's Jameis. He's been fun every time he gets a chance. Like last year with the Browns when he lit up the Ravens in his first start and won that game against a good Ravens team. Like, it wasn't like he had stud receivers. He had Tillman and Judy, who are definitely better than our receivers, but like, he did it with throwing with anticipation. He did it with challenging those tight windows. You know what Jameis is, man. He's going to freaking rip the ball in all levels of the field.
Nothing makes me laugh more than watching Jameis break pocket and watching him run. He's like a very unique runner, right? Like his head goes like 9 different ways.
Yeah.
There's so much movement from like his shoulders and his head when he's running.
Remember the ball he threw in the preseason, the end of the preseason when he was escaping right and like dotted one down the right sideline? I think it was the Gunner.
Oh, Gunner, that one? Yeah.
Oh, probably the best throw any quarterback made on the Giants this year. If we're being straight up honest about it, there's like a truest best throw.
Yeah. The Gunner one was nuts. Yeah. He had a couple to Hyatt too, I think, as well. Yeah. Like, it's just Jameis is a gun throw, man. Yeah. Like, if I'm the Green Bay Packers, like, again, the Jaxson Dart, we don't know what's going on with he's in the concussion protocol. The Giants are just, you look at their Wednesday injury report. Who the hell's practicing, right? Like, they're all
that time of year, baby.
That time of year, exactly. But like, say he does not play. If I'm the Packers, I'm like, fuck, I got Jameis Winston. Like, I'm sure the DBs are like, yeah, I got to play Jameis Winston, you know. But like, as the coordinator, it's like this guy is. If I want to try to shut their running game down and I give him that one-on-one matchup, I better trust these corners to guard like Slayton. Yeah. And we laugh like, oh, Slayton can release off the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Slayton can run fast.
Slayton could have a big game with Jameis.
He can, exactly. It's those outside the numbers wide receivers.
Yeah.
The issue with it is I don't know anybody else other than Darius Slayton, and he didn't practice today either. So it's just like, is he going to be there? because you remember he did suffer a little hammy thing. He came back in the game. But is there another speedy type of guy the Giants even have out there that usually is on the outside? You got Ray, who is more of a slot type of guy. Little Jordan Humphrey runs like a 4.7, 4.8. So it's like
they're not even going to bring him back because of financial.
You're just going to see seam balls to freaking seam to Theo Johnson
and Bellinger. Yeah, we'll probably stick in our 12 personnel. We'll probably lean on that, and I really think that's good because Jameis can throw the seam. Jameis can throw every freaking throw. He's such a good arm talent. The Jameis issue is, of course, the arm talent's amazing. B, the anticipation's amazing. I remember grinding tape for him last season, and just some of the anticipatory throws he made. It's like, dude, and he was hitting backside digs as well, dude. Like, it's like he's processed as well too. He's a weird quarterback, dude. Like, he can process, he can throw with anticipation, and he has unbelievable arm talent. Why? And he's tall and big. Why is he not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? It's so weird. He's one of the weirdest players I think I've studied at the quarterback position. He has every tool, and he executes a lot of them, but like he just hasn't been good because he just has brain fart moments, I guess, where he just throws picks.
He throws picks. I think he holds on to the football a little bit too long.
Yeah, does that too much too, right?
It's a little bit too greedy. So it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's him trying to make a play, right? Sometimes he can live the fight another day, but that's not really in Jameis Winston's MO, right? That's not his modus operandi. No. He is a gunslinger. I want to make a play. I want to put the team on my back, and I can rally around that. Around that, especially with a better than normal offensive line.
Right.
But you're going up against a pretty tough matchup here with Micah Parsons on the other end and the Green Bay Packers front. Because, yes, they've lost the last two, the Green Bay Packers, and we can get into them a little bit later. They've lost the last two, and their offense, I think, has only scored like 20 points, right? Or something. Like, it's been really weird with the Carolina and the Eagles loss. But that defense is still playing high-level defense.
And they're on the field that's what Parsons was like, dude. Are you really coming after the defense right now? I think he tweeted something there, said something like, come on, man. Like, and what he means by that is like, our offense just keeps punting. Like, our offense sucks right now. Like, fumbling or punting or doing dumb stuff. Like, and they're so injured at wide receiver. Like, honestly, this should be a get right game for the Giants defense. It's not possible because our defense is so bad, but like, it should be.
I know, man. It's weird because like when we do the game prediction, like I kind of want to like pick the Giants to win, but I'm also like, I haven't picked them to win too much this year, but when I have, they've lost. So it's like I don't want to look like an asshole again. You know what I mean?
Green Bay coming off the loss, though, they're really
two straight losses.
They know they need this win.
I think the Giants respond though with some. I think they come out like
playing hard for Kafka type thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe. I mean, I think firing Bowen would have helped that too. I know you can't do it all in 1 week, but I think that would have been nice for like if we're looking for the defense to take over a game and have a get right game, I think firing Bowen would have helped a lot.
If it's status quo defensively, Bowen might get canned during the bye week, and then they'll have that whole week to get whoever on staff they deem
right.
the next defense coordinator ready, and that's not until week 14 because you have a Monday night game against the Patriots, and then that leads into week 14, which is right. It's a short week on the Monday anyways, but you get that extended period on the week prior. And if the defense goes out against Drake May and the Patriots and they shit the bed after these next two, like questionable, like giving up 30 points, 28 points, that's when I think the Giants should make that move if they want to make that move. And then just give like one of these young coaches on the defense a 4-game sample size or whatever.
The defense called. I think let these guys run their own defense. Yeah, honestly, like just let them run the defense at this point. I can't be worse than Shane Bowen, whatever the heck he's doing out there. No offense, like he's a good guy, I'm sure, and a family man. I don't know what else to say though. I just have no respect for the way that he calls a defense. To be quite honest, I have no respect from his defensive coordinator at the NFL level. It's not personal at all. But anyway, and I know it's not that way for you either. But anyway, that's the big decision to go to Jameis. In addition to that, Kafka said no other changes will be made. I think we knew that. On that front, there's a lot I want to talk about with regards to the Giants coaching search and their coach future. That's the big discussion that we'll end the show with. But before we do that, is there anything else like on what's going on right now that you wanted to hit?
Let's just go through just for people listening right now. First practice Wednesday, Dart, Slayton, Evan Neal, Raheem Nunez-Roches, Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okereke, Tyler Nubin, Neville Hewitt, Graham Gano, Young Wei Koo. None of them practice, according to Duggan.
Yeah, that's not great. Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob at all.
No, not great, Bob there, obviously. But we got to hope that some of these guys.
Debo was back, and I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Chauncey Golston, my bad, and John Michael Schmitz were not either, though.
Okay.
And Golston was off on the side, according to Duggan.
Yeah, this is the recent. Yeah, I see this now from Duggan. And John Michael Smith, interesting. I don't know what they're doing with John Michael Smith. Golston, it's been like a lost season for us, which really stinks.
Yeah, man.
We thought we might get something out of that, but yeah. So we can talk. So is that, and then we talked Tim Kelly's. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I missed before we get into the coaching stuff.
No, there's just been a lot of talk about the coaching stuff.
Okay. So yeah. So here's where we're going to get into a lot of it right now. We're going to have time to get into all of it over time. We probably won't have all time to get into today. Actually, before we do that, let's mix it up. Let's just do a quick score prediction for this week's Packers-Giants game.
Okay.
Unless you want to preview that more. I feel like
No, I think we're okay with
yeah.
like I think we're okay with just giving a score prediction right now. Jameis Winston, like that's good defense. I'm hoping the Giants respond. I want to pick a win. I don't think I'm going to though, and I think I'm going to go with a 23-20 victory for Green Bay. Something. Like that. Yeah.
I think it's going to be another really cold game. Not as cold as it was in Lambeau on Monday night, where literally no one could throw the football. It was so cold. No one could catch the football. No one could throw the football. But it's going to be cold. I saw 40 degrees for Saturday. I think it's about that for Sunday at MetLife. I think Jameis is fun. He's cool. And because of the way he plays, there will be more points because he'll throw a pick six or some interceptions that'll put the Packers in scoring position. If it was Dart playing, who doesn't throw a lot of interceptions or hasn't this year, he has 3, but like 2 were kind of bullshit interceptions that where he's forcing stuff at the end of games. Outside of that, Dart really only has 1. It would be like a really low scoring game, like that Eagles-Packers game, Nick. Like we could be looking at like a 10-7 or 13-10, 13-6 kind of game. But Jameis will pump the points up one way or another. So I will go with Packers 23, Giants 13.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. But look, I mean, that Packers offense has struggled. Like you said, this is a weird game. We're not predicting wins anymore for this team. We've passed that point, but I kind of agree with you. It could be like come out hard for Kafka, surprise shock, like we get this win.
And it's just because the Green Bay's been like this is a massive get right game for Green Bay, and I can only imagine like what Green Bay's media, the all 4 of them, what they're going to do to Matt Lafleur if they lose the 3rd game in a row, 2 of them against like come on opponents, 1 against a team that just fired their coach without their star rookie quarterback, with their 3rd string quarterback. That's going to be a terrible look. So Green Bay, what are they, 5-3-1?
Yep.
What are they going to go 5-4-1 with 2 losses against Carolina and the Giants within like that's tough for me to actually say yes. I'm going to go with the Giants, especially with everything the Giants have done and Shane Bowen still being the defensive coordinator. I have to imagine that it's going to be a heavy Josh Jacobs game, and Josh Jacobs to me, like he's one of I think he's one of the best running backs in the league. So I think that might be a bit of a pain in the ass for the New York Giants too. And I don't even know who the hell's going to play linebacker for the Giants either.
True.
If Garrett doesn't practice on Thursday, I'm going to be like, who the hell else is on this roster? Because it's just Flanagan fouls, I think, at this point, because Hewitt's not even at practice.
Yeah, I know. The injury situation is getting crazy at the end of this year. I knew after coming off a cold game, it would be a lot more injuries for the Giants this week, but it's also 2-8 season. We'll see what happens on that front. So let's start here, actually. There has been some speculation that if this season goes the wayside for the Packers, given the expectations in the trade for Micah, the Packers might move on from Lafleur. If Lafleur becomes a head coaching candidate, where does he rank for you on the Giants wish list?
He's up there, man. I mean, it depends on who else is available. I think we can rule Harbaugh out. He seems like the Ravens are Tomlin's name starting to get thrown around. Like if Tomlin or Lafleur were to be around, I would sign up for those guys. I mean, I said I'm open to Stefanski. I'm open to really anybody. I mean, there's some names getting thrown out there, like the McCarthys of the world, that I'm just like,
it's got to touch on that. We're gonna get.
It's gonna be rage bait, right? That's got to be rage bait for Giants.
No,
Twitter.
It's not rage bait.
Yeah,
well, it could be very real and serious,
which is insane. Like that would be. I would
to
be
us, not to everyone.
So against that.
We got to talk about. There's a lot to talk about on that. So let's table that. Let's start with Lafleur.
There's like 20 names that I've seen, and like some of them are more exciting than others. I like the offensive mind element of a Matt Lafleur and some of these young offensive coaches I see. I like the leadership element of a guy like Tomlin, right? And if you bring in Tomlin, he might retain him, Mike Kafka, right? So like there's that. If Kafka does a solid job towards the end, a lot of variables here, but a lot of the names I've seen from like the up and coming offensive minds, I support. I haven't done a deep dive into a lot of these guys, right? I'm not grinding through the all 22. It's all surface level evaluations from my perspective. But really the one that like, I've just like, come on, no. Like there's only really been like 1 or 2 names where I'm like, that can't be serious. And one of them is McCarthy. That would be tragic.
Well, we're going to have to get to that because a lot of Giants fans disagree with you, and it's been a big talking point on Giants Twitter. I'm not going to say I'm one of them because I'm not one of them, but we need to talk about it. But let's first talk about I first want to give my take on Lafleur. To me, he'd be number one on my coaching wish list. Sure, some people come back at me and say, what do you mean? There's been a lot of bad playoff losses. The time he opted to kick a field goal down 8 with like 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, which he's since like corrected. Like he's been in similar spots and he hasn't done that again. And then they'll say, oh, but he lost this year. To me, from my evaluation, I watch tape, I watch film, I do a lot of it for Beyond the Box Score. I think Jordan Love is a much more of a product of Matt Lafleur than Matt Lafleur is a product of Jordan Love. I think Matt Lafleur is propping up Jordan Love. I think Matt Lafleur has unbelievable route combinations, great play sequencing, he would be phenomenal for Jaxson Dart. Not good, phenomenal for Jaxson Dart. As far as is he a great head coach? I don't know, man. Like they haven't won, whatever, dude. I don't care. I'd be willing to give it a shot to get this guy working with Jaxson Dart and to get those route combinations in our offense and that play sequencing in our offense. I know it. I feel it. I believe it. I've seen it on tape. Matt Lafleur would be number one on my coaching wish list, most likely, unless somebody else broke free. That's unexpected. Obviously, like a Harbaugh, that's never going to happen anymore. Like a Tomlin, I'm interested in, but not. Honestly, it would be Lafleur probably one for me. Now let's move on to what you mentioned. We can talk about a few other things. Actually, before we do individuals, let me talk about something that is a little bit more overarching. So let me just find this tweet from where is he? It's not the one from Gary Myers. It is, because then we're going to get into that one. It is, okay, it's this tweet from Ian O'Connor, who covers the Giants, I think, more from afar. He's not like a beat guy, but he's like in tune. There's like guys I feel, Nick, from following this team for years that are like in lockstep with what ownership is doing. It's it's Paul Schwartz, as we obviously know.
And he's a beat guy too.
And he actually is a beat guy. And then it's some of these other guys like the Ian O'Connors of the world. Like we've had him weigh in pretty much every time they have a head coaching search. And he said, the day Brian Daboll was hired, John Mara said of hiring coaches without previous head coach experience, it's the most difficult decision by far that you ever have to make in this business because you just don't know. And then Ian O'Connor says, this is his opinion. This is not from Mara. That was a Mara quote, but this is his opinion on that. The Giants can't hire a novice head coach again after Brian Daboll, Joe Judge, McAdoo, despite the good assistants that are available. Nor can they go the Pat Shurmur or Spags route of former head coaches with sub 300 winning percentages. They need absolute certainty on this one. Someone with a winning head coach past, preferably on the NFL level, but at least at a major college level. So this idea that Ian O'Connor is putting out there, I think is shared by a lot of Giants fans. And on the surface, I get it, right? You look at this, you look at a coach's win percentage and you assign, I assume they're just assigning all that to the coach, which is really a bad process, but it is what it is. And they want proven, trusted guys. But outside of the surface level for me, if I back it up, Nick, this shit has me so freaking nervous, Nick, because I'm so nervous that John Mara thinks this exact way that Ian O'Connor is talking about right here. And it has me nervous because if you're using recent examples like McAdoo, Shurmur, Daboll to contextualize this in what is a ridiculously small sample size, right? We're talking about 3 guys. You're cutting off most of the head coaching candidate field. Essentially, it's the Giants saying, that's what the Giants would be doing by saying, no way, no first-time head coaches. No way, they're out of it. That's just cutting off so many potential great candidates. And if you look across the NFL, I tweeted this the other day, Nick, there's only 5 or 6 coaches that are having success right now that were hired after being head coaches. All of the other most successful teams in the NFL have guys that are first-time head coaches. So it's a ridiculous idea that just because it didn't work for us in the past in these small sample size, we have to rule it all out and cut off half the field now. That's so nervous. That's so scary for me.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, man. That's just, look, what is the one word that we've used on this podcast to describe what we hope ownership does? A very thorough search. You don't want to be just, oh, you know what? You have never been a head coach before. Go yourself, right? Like we don't want, like, I don't want that at all. I think that is, you're like Sean McVay could be right in front of you staring in the face. You'd be like, oh, get over here, you little whippersnapper, bye-bye. Like, no, I want to entertain that. I want to see how he does in the interview process. I want to feel his energy in a room. I want to be able to evaluate that if I am ownership. I'm just like, no, I want a guy who has been a head coach before, because I know he can do it, even though he's not a head coach anymore and got fired for one reason or another. I think that's silly. I think it's foolish. And I would like to hope that the Giants, that this is getting put out there and this isn't actually how they feel, but they would like possibly for someone to have experience, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that they need. It's not a deal breaker if they don't, because if that's the case, man, that's a dereliction of duty by ownership, in my opinion.
I'd like to agree with you, and I'd like to feel that way as well, but I'm worried that that's not how Mara operates or feels. And it's just an experience of following this team for long enough, which leads us to our next point, which is Gary Myers, another guy who I feel like when he talks, he knows, and he's had conversations with people who are connected to ownership and get a sense for how they're feeling. And Gary Myers tweeted out, the speculation season has arrived. Here's what one source who knows the Giants well suggests might happen. Head coach Mike McCarthy, he knows how to win, according to Gary Myers. We'll debate that in a second. Okay. Offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss. He was Dart's OC at Ole Miss. Don't hate that. Not totally opposed to that. And then DC is a candidate. This is Gary Myers, speculating based on what he's heard from ownership. DC is Matt Patricia, who he says is still one of the best defensive coordinators. He's doing a great job at Ohio State. Obviously, has an insane amount of talent at Ohio State. I hope we recognize that and understand how easy it is to coordinate a defense with that talent, unless you're Shane Bowen. No, just kidding. And he says, great defensive coordinator, but bad head coach. Now, this is also someone, I just want to point this out, because I did say that Gary Myers has said this is from Myers says this is from a source who knows the Giants well. Carl Banks, who's in the building and works for the Giants, has been propping up Matt Patricia as well. So it kind of does feel like Banks is maybe, I'm speculating on this, but maybe there is some stuff going around the building. Like we're looking at Patricia as our next defensive coordinator alongside a coach like Mike McCarthy. So let me just start with this, Nick, and then I'll get your thoughts on it. Here's why I am scared of Mike McCarthy as head coach in the New York Giants. And then I want to hear why you are. People have asked me about this. For me, one, and most important, I do not, and I will not, and I do not care what any of you say. I apologize to you in advance. I do not and will not credit his win-loss record exclusively to him. He had two of the best processors in the game during their respective eras at the quarterback position in Rodgers and Dak. When you have two of the best processors at the quarterback position, and I mean by that is guys who, no matter what you call, no matter what you do as an offensive coach, these guys are seeing the field well, and they're getting the ball out to where it's supposed to be on time in Dak and Rodgers, including one in Rodgers who coupled that elite level processing earlier in his career. He's not as elite now in it, with elite level arm talent and a legit Hall of Fame career. He's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. It is not going. I am not going to sit here and be like, you did the most amazing job in the world. And two, let's not forget and let's not act like we weren't all around, because we were NFC East fans. We weren't all around to watch his late game clock management issues, his odd ways of losing football games with the Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and then his odd ways of losing football games with the Cowboys on a team that featured during the time. This was before the Eagles arose to this occasion. But Nick, during this time, the Cowboys were the 1-1 best, most elite offensive line in the NFL when Mike McCarthy coached there for the vast majority of his tenure. Hall of Famer Zach Martin, Hall of Famers Travis Frederick, Hall of Famer, potentially not Tyron Smith, but potential Hall of Famer, 3 potential Hall of Famers on his offensive line. Okay. So I want to keep that in mind. So when people just credit him entirely for his win-loss record that was so good until the playoffs, or his offensive success, and here was the Cowboys offensive ranking, here was the Green Bay offensive ranking. Well, yeah, your offensive ranking is good. You have Dak and the best offensive line in the NFL, or you have Rodgers, Hall of Famer. But that leads me into two, which is the thing that I'm personally most scared of, Nick. In my opinion, from having studied the game, I'm not a believer in Mike McCarthy's scheme, and I'm not a believer in the potential habits that it will form for Jaxson Dart. I worry that Mike McCarthy's scheme is completely stuck in the 2010s in a Jason Garrett-esque fashion. He won't be as bad as Garrett, let me make that clear, but in a Jason Garrett-esque fashion, and I am worried about what that means for the Giants offense, but most importantly, the habits it will form for Jaxson Dart. So that's where I stand there. I want to hear your take now, McCarthy.
I do feel similar. I want to say they started to, because he took over play calling, I want to say in like, what was it, like 2023? And they started incorporating some RPOs, and I would hope that they would lean in that, because that's what Jaxson Dart is having success with. It was a big part of Brian Daboll's offense. I think we'll continue to see that once Jaxson Dart returns to the lineup. But that's a very West Coast oriented offense where you're really focused on quick game and the drop back passing game. And that's something that I feel like Jaxson Dart can operate, but it's not necessarily something like if that's the staple and the foundation of the offense, I don't think that's the best utilization of Jaxson Dart either. Right. And it's that. It's all the other things you mentioned as well with Mike McCarthy, not just being tied with Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to use that against him. There was some beef there. I don't really know exactly what it was about with Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, but a lot of those wins that I don't know if they should always just be attributed to Mike McCarthy. And then he had the 7-win season or whatever it was last year. He gets fired for Schottenheimer, and there was a weird ending. He had the whole odd thing where he's like, I studied every offense, and I watched every freaking play there ever was, and blah, blah, blah. And then he, like, 2 weeks after he got hired by the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry Jones was like, yeah, he said he did that, and I wanted to hire him because of it. Freaking, he's like, nah, I lied. He's like, I was bullshitting. And I was like, that's weird, all right? And I don't want a third retread either. I don't think that's the best course of action for the New York Giants right now. You want to convince me second? Maybe. I want the best possible guy. Like, again, like I want it to be a thorough. And if Mike McCarthy was the most thorough and proved that he could be innovative, sure. But I don't want the Giants to, pay fealty to him because he was a head coach twice before this, right? And be like, oh, you're definitely going to be it. You come in here, you knock it out the park, and it's going to be all well and good there. But it'll be the second time the Giants took a coach over from Dallas, and it more than likely won't work out, like the Jason Garrett thing. That I'm not going to weigh that against Mike McCarthy, obviously, but yeah, I'm not the I would not be excited about that. I might need to do a bigger deep dive into that Dallas tape. I watched it when they played the New York Giants, but again, like by the end of those games, they were just running the football because the Giants weren't really all that competitive when he was the head coach there because the Giants sucked. But overall, man, I want a thorough search, and I don't want to just give it to somebody because he has experience. Like, that'd be so silly. And then you see Clint Kubiak go take a job somewhere else and just be like, I want to locate that Sean McVay if he's out there. I'm not saying he is. There's been a lot of guys who have aspired to be Sean McVay, and he hasn't turned out to be Sean McVay. That's fine. But I want to at least locate that, especially with the NFL evolving as much as it has recently, right? Even the college level into the NFL, and the college and the NFL, they're blending together. You have a lot of young, precocious coaches who are in their 30s right now, late 30s, early 40s. What is Mike McCarthy, like 60?
I don't know.
He's probably in his
old,
60s.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine he's in his 60s, right? Or his late 50s or something. And I'm not using that against him per se, because there's other coaches who are a little bit older who I think I would be much more receptive to, but it's the collective of all the things that we've kind of mentioned with Mike McCarthy. And also just like the suggestion that like Mara might just go out there and do it because he's an experienced coach. That just does not sit all that well with me.
I think within your answer, you nailed the crux of it, which is you and I are looking for more of a ceiling with the Giants head coach. We're willing to
especially with a young quarterback, man. Like,
correct. We're willing to risk more of a floor when we realize or recognize that McCarthy's floor is not guaranteed. That's the thing we differ on with a lot of Giants fans who are pro McCarthy. They believe the floor is guaranteed. They believe he'll at least get us back to making the playoffs and losing in the divisional round. That is not guaranteed. He doesn't have Rodgers. He doesn't have Dak, and he doesn't have the best offensive line in the NFL that he had. 3 Hall of Famers on his offensive line with the Cowboys. That is the reason. And like when you look at the tape, it's not McCarthy. It's just not him, man. And that doesn't even get into all his mistakes at the end of the game. So no, I don't feel that you are right with that. I don't feel you're right. He gives us a guaranteed floor. That's bullshit to me. It's total bullshit to me personally. I do not believe he gives a guaranteed floor. So I think he's got a super low floor too. In addition to if you miss on a Kubiak or something like that, there's floor regardless to me. I want ceiling. And I know I got no ceiling with McCarthy personally. Plus I stand by him, very worried about the way he teaches quarterbacks how to read defenses and how that would impact Dart. And why am I worried? Because I went through it with Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo came from Mike McCarthy. Yes, Ben McAdoo did a good job of getting Eli to move his right foot back on the shotgun snaps and get the ball out fast. And it was good for Eli for a short period of time. It is not a good way to teach offense, in my opinion. It's too reliant on one-on-one matchups, specifically in the slot. I don't want a West Coast quick game, like get the ball out.
Maybe do it.
I don't want that shit again. And I don't want to watch that shit for Dart. I don't want to watch Dart have to go through an offense like that and see him regress the way he will regress as far as processing defense and how he sees things post-snap. To me, it's the nightmare scenario for me, based mostly on that. Less on the whole, will McCarthy be a good coach? And do I believe in his win-loss? It's mostly, I just don't want it for Dart at all from an offensive schematic standpoint.
Wouldn't it be the most New York Giants thing though? And I'm going to knock on wood while I say this, that the Giants go and they hire Mike McCarthy and he's gone within 2 or 3 seasons. And then Clint Kubiak becomes the coach of whatever team, Tennessee Titans. And they're just like,
Ward is like now like, oh, you can't take Jaxson Dart over Cam Ward. Cam Ward's light years better than Dart. Like he's much better. Like, it's like, oh, well, and how are you arguing it? It's like, oh shit. It might be, that would be New York Giants. I hope that we're changing our path, the course of our path at some point, like diverging on a different timeline. If you believe in the multiverse, which I'm not even saying I do, I'm just joking around. But there's a few other players that we do need to discuss, or I'm sorry, a few other candidates that we definitely need to discuss at this moment.
The Matt Patricia one's interesting, right? Because I have a few thoughts on Matt Patricia. Again,
as DC, by the way, he wouldn't be as head coach.
Of course. He was a disaster as the head coach of the Detroit Lions, but this is a 3-time Super Bowl champion defensive coordinator under Bill Belichick and with the Patriots, of course, but one who learned defense under the New England Patriots. Somebody who I remember hearing, isn't he like some kind of like space engineer or something too? Like
I think so. I think he's
that had nothing to do with his ability to coach defense, but he has put a lot of good defensive football out there. And now he's at Ohio State doing his thing with Ohio State. But I would be open to that, especially since it seems like he really understands defense and he can be adaptive with his defense. I just hope he's learned how to talk with other adult humans, because that seemed to be a big problem with him when he was the head coach of the Lions, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, big problem.
Like a lot of people did not like him. Like
that brick, but it works when he's got Arvell Reese and insane talent on the Ohio State offensive line, defensive line, and Caleb Downs. Like, it works when you got great talent. He would have good talent here.
You're not doing it. You can do that in college. Like, you can get away with that. These 18, 19-year-old kids. You're not doing it to a 30-year-old who has
completely agree with you on that.
What I mean?
And maybe he's learned from it. Let's be clear. We don't want him to speculate on who he is as a human and if he can evolve as a human and a coach. So I'm not as like, that one doesn't kill me. If he came in with anybody as a defensive coordinator, I could get on board with that. I could see it.
Couldn't be worse than Shane Bowen.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not the exact style I want on defense, but it's good enough.
I am curious though, if that were to happen. We don't have to spend too much time because it's all speculation. I don't know if the Giants personnel perfectly fits what
I'm saying
defensively. And there are some very good players on the New York Giants right now defensively. I don't know if I wouldn't want Patricia to come in here and be like, yeah, we could use you, but you're costing a little bit too much for what you're worth.
Right. Which is what they do, by the way. That's the Patriots way. Yeah. And you've seen that, but with Vrabel too, coaching the Patriots and getting rid of players like Duggar. But we'll see on that front. That's speculation. That's just speculation at this point. I think ultimately he would be in some ways at least tied to the Mike McCarthy hiring. Sorry, just got some from work. My bad, guys. Just got a quick message from work I had to look at, but we're back. Anyway, let's discuss a few other things here, Nick. Here's one that's been floated that I'm personally scared of, and we don't have, if you don't want, we can get into some other coaching stuff, but we'll just touch on a few more. We'll get into more later. But Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame has been floated as a high upside potential hire. That one scares me too, dude. Taking him out of the college ranks, no more recruiting. Notre Dame has a really easy schedule and really easy recruiting path. He's supposed to be a good defensive coordinator. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't follow college football. I don't watch his tape. I mean, I don't know what he'd bring at OC for Dart. That one scares me.
I would love to know with the comment section. They're probably going to have a better feel on it. So please, if you guys are big college football fans, please put that in the comment section. Think about Freeman. For me, like I always heard that one of the biggest positives for Freeman was like his ability to recruit, right?
Right.
That's basically ineffective.
Throw that out. Yeah.
NFL, but I don't know how he is.
The upside, I think, is based on like they believe he could be a great leader of men. And that is perfectly fine to believe. And he's done a great job of that with Notre Dame.
Excellent.
Again, that's, as you've said, with 18 to 20-year-old kids. You can lead them in a different way than you can lead human beings, men who are playing professionally at the NFL level. There's no guarantee that will translate one-to-one. I don't even know if he's as good a defensive coordinator as people make him out. If they even make him out to be, I don't really know. And then on the offensive side, who would he bring in, right? Like, who's his guy who's going to take over for, with Jaxson Dart? I don't know. That one scares the hell out of me, but I know it's like along the lines of what Mara's looking for. We're just, I want a leader of men. I want somebody who's going to come in here and be the head coach, the CEO type. We tried the coordinator thing. It's not working for us. We got to go to the CEO.
You're getting good at it, man.
Yeah.
You don't finish it well, though. You're getting good at it, yes.
There's no finish.
Like the Giants, you know?
Yeah. Damn. There was a funny moment in this week's All 22 that I was watching back where I just was like really getting passionate about a point I was trying to make. And I was like, oh, come on, everything or
Oh, I
something.
know.
Yes,
I did this right away. I'm so glad
I
you
was
caught
so
that.
in the moment that I wasn't looking at your face as I was doing it, like
Yeah.
as I was saying it. And it just
And the comments are usually,
comments got me there. Yeah,
the
it's like
comments always get us.
5403. Someone's like, look at Dan's face when he said, look at Nick's face when Dan saying that. Come over everything. Yeah. So anyway, there's that. And then let's close out. We'll talk about some of the other ones later. But and the guys that haven't been rumored yet that we're interested in, like the Kubiak types, until I hear the Giants are connected, we'll get to there. But one final thing I want to discuss is the Steve Spagnuolo idea. And the Steve Spagnuolo idea is tied to either one of two things: retaining Mike Kafka as offensive coordinator, and basically, you're leading the offense, I'm leading the defense in Spags. We're kind of head coaches type thing. Your offense, my defense type of thing. And he's worked with Kafka before, Spagnuolo, so they have a relationship together. Or potentially, which I'm even more excited about, to be honest, than Kafka, bringing in Mike McDaniel. God, would I love Mike McDaniel to run this offense next year. I think of all the candidates I have, he literally is even above Kubiak for me as far as just purely running the offense, not head coach, obviously, but as far as just purely running the offense. I love, even now, dude, when they have nothing, Tyreek's gone, Tua sucks. His offense, in my opinion, his offensive line is horrifically bad. He's generating offense with scheming up awesome stuff for Achane and which he would do for Scadaboo in the passing game, and scheming up awesome stuff for Waddle. Like, he's still got it, man, with nothing around him. He was bad last year when he had to go to like Huntley and like those idiot quarterbacks. Like, obviously no one's going to be able to scheme offense for those guys. They're too bad at football relative to the NFL talent, but he'd still be one. But the idea of Spags, let's start there. A lot of Giants fans, and I'm for it, a lot of Giants fans are against it, Nick. A lot of fans have come back at me and they've said, look, it's very rare for a head coach who had his level of failure to be good on his second run as head coach. They point to his win percentage with the Rams, which I understand is bad. I say, remember our 2007 defensive line and what he did with that? He's coming right back to it, baby. Like, he's going to get Carter, Thibodeau, Dex, and Burns. How fun would that be? And I believe in his ability to lead men, even though in the past it didn't work out.
Yeah. So I've heard nothing but great things about Steve Spagnuolo from players, right? From everything that I've collected, he's very well respected. I don't think I've ever heard a negative thing. So there's that. He's a little bit older. This would be his second try. He failed in St. Louis. That turns me off a little bit to it, but I'm more receptive to this, not just because of his success with the New York Giants. He's won Super Bowls as the defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, but since then he's won Super Bowls with Andy Reid, learned under Andy Reid, saw how Andy Reid, who was one of the best coaches of our era, ran a tight ship. And he didn't have that experience when he was just with the Giants. He just had the Tom Coughlin. And that's no slight on Tom Coughlin, but this is just more perspectives that you accrue over the longevity of your career. And I'm willing to entertain that. I don't know if it would be the most exciting thing. I would love to see that defense again. But again, I think I want to be thorough. And if he is the leader that John Mayer would have deemed, I won't throw a fit as of right now. I think it could work out. But I do have this I do have this little bit of me that's like, man, I really would love to get like a young offensive guy. Like through the thorough process, of course. But I would like it better than the Mike McCarthy one, but it probably wouldn't be the first pick.
And I think that's the scary part when it comes to it. For me, that's more scary, the second thing you said, rather than like the first thing, which is from Giants fans, like, look at his past winning percentage. Because personally, I think it would be exciting to have him run the defense and somebody like McDaniel run the offense. To me, that's excitement on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively. It's almost, I don't know if you can get better. Personally, I think Spags, from a couple of the games this year, like he coached, that were just phenomenal. The way he destroyed the Eagles offense schematically was phenomenal. Watching that on tape, I watched that tape back for Beyond the Box Score. He absolutely cooked the Eagles offense, and they had everyone healthy for that game. Barkley, Brown, Smith, whatever, Hurts. So I just think he's great from a schematic standpoint, and he leads them. And then it's Mike McDaniel, who I think would be our best option personally to run the offense, even over a Kubiak. With that said,
I love a defensive mind like that too, man. Just like somebody who has like changed his defense.
He changes it so much. That's the key. Exactly right.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, he was under Jim Johnson.
Yes.
Back with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? That's the same tree as McDermott over there with the Bills. That same tree. It was a lot of zone type of things, zone blitz. And he still has that like in his fabric. But how many different game plans have you seen from Steve Spagnuolo over the years?
Correct.
That were tailored specifically towards his opponent, something we never see from Shane Bowen. So like,
Exactly.
I would love that defensive mind again, though. Like, I don't know if he would be my first choice for head coach.
Sure. And he might not be mine either.
Yeah.
Because of what I'm about to say, but I do love the point you just made. He is so multiple with his defense. He is not the coordinator who's just running his scheme every week and it's predictable. That's what makes him special. With that said, the negative to it is what you touched on. I think it's really important. If you went that route, and even in the best case scenario, Nick, where you would get Mike McDaniel on board, or let's say it's Kafka, which is still good, but second best, it's risky because when you don't hire the offensive-minded head coach, you can lose that coordinator to a head coach job if he does great job with Jaxson Dart in the offense and he takes us to a new level and we're one of the elite offenses in the NFL. When he's your head coach, when you hire the Kubiak or whatever, now you get to keep him. You get to keep the offense intact. It's a big, big risk. Obviously, we saw with the Lions this year, it didn't work out for them until this last week, at least from the film I watched, because I watched this tape. Dan Campbell was light years better at calling that offense than the guy they had in here for the first 9 weeks of the season. They looked awesome again on offense, and they looked like he was sequencing the plays together right. He was marrying the pass and run. He brought in Skipper on the first play. They ran a 7-yard off tackle with him. Skipper comes back in 9 plays later, and it's play action. It's like all the stuff you want to see.
If I'm not mistaken, Dan Campbell took over play calling once previous to
Yes.
before Ben Johnson, and then Ben Johnson came in. But that says something about Dan Campbell, though, as a leader. That he, like, you need to run a tight ship underneath Dan Campbell, or he'll replace you with himself. But he's humble enough to take a step back if he finds out that you're competent enough to actually do the job. And I respect that, dude. Nothing pisses me off more than incompetence, like people being incompetent at a job and then being rewarded with being allowed to do said job. I like a leader who is going to be like, no, screw you. You suck. I'm taking over. Boom. This is what I want done. Oh, Ben Johnson, you can do it. Here you go. You call the plays. Boom. I'm going to be the head guy. Hands off. Do your thing. Like, I have the utmost respect for a coach or just any leader in any job.
Yeah. And then you back it up too, right? Because then he backed it up by putting together great tape last week against the Commanders. And the Commanders' defense is shot. So, like, that's part of it too. Like, it is a nightmare what's going on for them with Dan Quinn and the talent they have. But still, I watched it. It looked really good. But point being, like, we have the chance to lose that if we go the Spags route or if we go any of the defensive route, really. And that's risky too, because I don't want – to me, it's just, again, I understand what fans are saying. I agree. We need a leader at coach. We need a right head coach too. But man, we need to really focus on Dart. We need to really make this about Dart. It has to be, dude. We can't ruin Dart. We won't get when are we going to get another chance at a player like Dart? I hate to say it, dude, but like we got rid of the one guy who's good at locating the quarterbacks in Daboll, which we had to get rid of him. But like, we don't know if the next guys we have in can locate quarterbacks talent wise the same way, because Daboll right now, his track record as far as like assessing quarterback play, I think he played the 2024 class dead perfect personally for me, which is I wanted May. I tried to trade up for May. They won't do it. I wanted Jaden Daniels. I would have traded up for Jaden Daniels. They won't do it. I'm going to pass on Nix, who in my opinion sucks. That's me saying that, not Daboll. I'm going to pass on Penix, thank God. And I'm going to pass on McCarthy. Well, it remains to be seen, but God, it looked awful on tape this week. Like that to me, and I'm going to go Neighbors. And then this year, the way he assessed this one, passing on Sanders, not even considering a player like Sanders, finding Dart, like, dude, Dart, like there are a lot of teams about it who needed the Dart in this draft. They all passed on him. Daboll was the one guy. Now there's a rumor that McVay also was interested if Daboll didn't trade up ahead of him. But outside of that, no one really saw this.
It's a brutal reality though, that it's likely. It seems like a lot of reports are suggesting that Brian Daboll wasn't there. The Giants don't go with Jaxson Dart.
I know.
And Brian Daboll got shafted. And I'm not saying that he didn't deserve to. Obviously, he did.
Yeah, he was a bad
all that kind of stuff. But like, it is kind of shitty that there are other people who are going to be employed by the New York Giants for the foreseeable future. Joe Shane and some of the other guys, the nepotistic hires and all that kind of stuff, who may not, and I don't know this for a fact, but may not have went with Jaxson Dart, the guy that all the Giant fans are like, thank God we have him. This is amazing. You know, and they're able to be like, oh, we drafted him. And it's like, did you?
But the good news on that front, Nick, is now we can transfer what's important, right? Like, so we found him. We got our guy, most likely. I don't want to say it just yet, but we most likely got our guy in Jaxson Dart. We don't need to do that again for a while, hopefully, as long as we do the second part, which is tutelage, like develop him, bring in the right guys to develop him, and bring in the right guys to teach him how to read an offense.
I 100% agree. One thing I want to say, and this ties into a conversation we had about a half hour ago.
Yeah.
Do you think ownership, they're looking at Jaxson Dart's rookie contract and they want to go with a coach with experience because they don't want to waste that, and they want a coach, not necessarily who's going to fail, but a coach who's not going to be learning on the job? How much do you think that weighs into it? Because that's
I think that's where ownership is at right now.
Yeah, there's merit to that philosophy. Again, I want it still. I don't retract anything that I said earlier, but at the same time, you can see why someone would be, I want to hit the ground running with this rookie contract right away and not have a coach be like, what the fuck am I doing?
I know. And that's probably where they're at.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could be a, Sean McVay, Wade Phillips situation though, too, where you bring in a veteran DC who would like to work with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Taylor, all this talent, and with a good quarterback and a good offense, along with a young coach. That's what I would prefer. But again, I just want the thorough process and not just like rigid thinking entering this thing.
Agreed on that front. We'll see, though. The Giants haven't proven to be very thorough. They've proven more to be rigid over the last 10 years of losing football. So can they make a change as an organization? Sure. Anyone can change at any point. People can change, as Tim Robinson once said in the Dangerous Night skits. But,
I don't know if I know that one. You haven't sent me that one, have you?
I think I've sent you this one a few times. This is the sloppy steaks one.
No, I don't think so. Yes, send it to me.
I'll send you sloppy steaks.
Tim Robinson's grown on me. He doesn't hit all the time for sure, but
he does not hit all the time, even for me.
But some of them are just absolutely hilarious.
I love how you love the zip line one. That was the first one that got you.
Yeah.
The zip line one's so good. I think you kind of just here for the zip line.
The zip line one might be the second best. I think the best one is the yes, Sergeant. Yes, Sergeant.
Oh yeah, you saw that one. That's so good.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Say I love you. Say I love you. Say I love
you. Yeah. That's amazing. They did such a good job portraying that character in that 1 minute clip. They jam pack so much within that 1 minute clip for all of the audience to understand what was going on with that character. That's talent right there, man.
Yeah.
And they packaged it up in a nice, funny little, I respected it.
Yeah. So eventually I'll send you the sloppy steaks. I'll send you a few others that I think could potentially hit for you. Some might not. And that's the beauty of the Tim Robinson, but I don't know where that tangent came from. Thank you to everybody for listening to the Big Blue Banter podcast. We went over some hot head coaching candidates and our thoughts on them. Gave a little preview of this Packers game, Jameis Winston time. Appreciate everybody supporting us. Again, apologies for the one bad audio. I believe it was just weather related and internet related. The more I think about it, because I checked everything and our audio has been fine since. So please let us know if the audio sounds good on this one. And if not, well, obviously it's not going to sound
great on this one.
Nick's not at home. So let's just, all right, another caveat, but Nick's not at home. But regardless, it's going to be at least listenable, I think, or a lot more listenable. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please rate and review on iTunes and Spotify. And blitz the damn A-gap. Love that shirt. Leave some comments to get this.
You guys want some information on this? Dan and I are looking to launch some merch type stuff. Just put it in the comments. Dan and I are debating on when to get that all finalized and ready.
Yes, agreed. And we need to add that'll be for a future date. But also on that front, I want to get some new going. In the comments, why don't we do this? Leave who you want right now to be the Giants head coach. Just put a name. Actually, here's what I want from you in the comments. If you're still listening to this time of the show, in the comment section, leave name for head coach, OC, and DC. 3 things. I don't need a special teams coordinator, but I want head coach. I want OC and DC. And we'll end it on that. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon.